In the year 5503, the roll-up without a roll-up commenced. Confused? It was hardly any better for the denizens of 3-Up Fort, who faced a toxic gas descending on their home. Plus, the soils were being poisoned by a mysterious machine that tunneled up from below, threatening to destroy any hope of keeping their lucrative farming gig afloat, to put it mildly. This is to say nothing of the death robots standing between them and any hope of rectifying the situation. But the rolling mass made a mistake. By leaving the gang no choice, they had to get serious. That is why we rejoin them as they tie strips of cloth over their mouths and slot magazines into all the guns they have. Plus a few more. Holt dragged a crate from the lab and kicked it open, revealing a prior delivery from his headquarters that could turn the tide. First was a rapid-firing machine gun light enough to be carried out into the field. Huntsman flicked it up with familiarity. Second was a larger weapon with a thick, knobbly barrel and a scope that you couldn't actually see anything through. "You'll like this, Bard," Holt said, handing the big gun to Staves. "Wasn't even meant to tell you guys we had these, but if it's the end of the world, might as well break open the party starters. And hey, maybe you're not too dumb to use it after all." Holt pulled a pipe from an unlimited campfire and stuck it into a hole beside the trigger. The scope suddenly lit up and displayed a colourful red-blue image of whatever it was pointed at. Could see the outline of any warm-blooded beast, even through walls. A device like that had so many applications, it was almost a shame just to attach it to a massive blowwork launching gun. But a massive blowwork launching gun happened to be very much in demand at that moment, so the civilian applications would have to wait. Lady, Holt and Comeriero stayed to guard the fort, while everyone else made a mad dash to reach the metal invader with as little time in the green fog as possible. They were followed by a trail of excited dogs and of course the Mega Sloth. Down the hill they saw a wide circle of death, with their target at the epicenter. "Alright, no messing about. Just remember, you die if you breathe too much. Fun little job you got me here, butter," Huntsman said. Then it was go time. The crew spread out between the rocks and trees on the edge of the death zone and took aim at the target. When Staves pulled his trigger, he was thrown off the back of the Megasloth by the shocking recoil. His gun sent a thick bolt of light downrange, which split into 3 and pierced the metal cylinder. Everyone else's shots fell wide of the mark. The cylinder didn't blow up though, and that was the element of surprise spent. Immediately the squadron of gun tank things and insectoid warrior things were soaring towards them. "Left to right, don't stop shooting," Shah said, unmoved by the affair. Everyone else blasted out shots with a great deal more stress. Shots came zipping and whooshing back, the zipping ones from the mini-tanks, and the whooshing ones launched from some kind of cosmic magic crossbow the insectoid warriors carried. Things were landing all around the trees and rocks the gang were hiding behind, but they just kept shooting back. The fog was now painful to breathe, gradually eating away at their throats. "Alright, I'm cutting this short," Tumas declared, racing out of cover to approach the metal cylinder. A few of the death robots were already in pieces, and the others were busily raining everything they had on the larger group. Tumas got near to the cylinder, stuffed the feet of his machine gun into the mud, and then cleared out a magazine up and down the side of the target. Sparks flew, and then it broke apart by the force of some detonation from within, smaller and less of a payoff than before though. Then Tumas turned and emptied his final magazine into the sides of the remaining death robots. They were already covered in holes, and the odd hit from Staves' supergun had taken head-sized chunks out of them. This final barrage put their circuits to sleep for good. "Anyone dead?" Huntsman called out. "Getting closer," Kerma said. Her ill-fitting jacket was torn up and bloody. "We're all gonna drown in this cursed air! Get back to the castle!" Boy shouted. Everyone agreed, but Staves remained prone on his sloth. The commands he was giving with his feet were going ignored. "Staves, darling, are you coming?" Shah asked. "Itzy won't move," he replied softly. "Itzy is dead, darling." "I know. Wait here and the dogs will have their fill of this poison. Sorry, but we have to go, don't we?" "Yeah." With that, Staves slid down from the sloth. He dared not glance at her face, which was pierced with far ancient munitions. The dogs seemed confused about why everyone was leaving XIII behind, but eventually followed Staves back to the relative breathability of the fort. Inside, Kerma was in the medical cave, getting more of those munitions pulled out of her chest. Luckily, her gambeson jacket was thicker than sloth hide, so there was nothing fatal. That's not to say it was at all tolerable to have Comariero performing surgery on her. She bawled and bemoaned his techniques at length. Eventually Holt came in with a bouquet of wild flowers. "Cleaned up the yard while you were away. Here, Kermer," he said, placing the bundle of heathers and herbs beside her on the bed.
"Is it... you have learnt the blending of smokes?" she said through her wincing.
"Light it up and find out." When burned, Holt's custom aromatics made the pain feel a lot more bearable, inside and out. And Kerma, for her part, saw the weird Zapper Holt in a far more charitable light than her tribesmate Comariero. She was going through the same process as Comariero, in which the barrier of myth and hatred that kept the descendants of old enemies apart was gradually diminished, or more accurately, was seen to be as illusory as the interesting patterns of colours that Holt's burning bouquet made dance across your eyes. Point is, that odd couple seemed to be getting on very well, which was ruining Kerma's icy image around the fort. Anyway, the immediate danger was over, leaving them with the creeping long-term danger. With their brave sally, some of the mountainside was saved. Now all they had to do was not breathe too much, and maybe the Cote, the Mover, the Inner Passage Administration, or whatever was trying to kill them, would run out of poison gas. Of course, the wind played its part in moving the stuff around, making it at times too dense to stomach for even a moment, and at others quite bearable. Several days of quarantine passed. Lady claimed that the fog was becoming less dense, according to her observations of the sun, all jotted down in a legible scrawl, in a language she had apparently invented just for this experiment. Well, everyone gets bored in quarantine. The fog was still screwing with the talkie-talkie machine in the lab, but a little news from the outside world was able to trickle in through a party of visitors. This group was seen miraculously hiking up the mountain towards them. Huntsmen dashed out and helped the dozen-strong group drag their bulky packs through the gateway and into the hall.
"Butternut morons fresh from the core! I'll hear no other explanation, butter!"
he exclaimed at them. The pile of panting perambulators had no retort, but they were about 2 missed breaths from losing consciousness, to be fair. The intrusion had Boy fretting over the food supply, but he still summoned up the manners to offer these refugees some sustenance. Comariero carried a set of mud nugget surprises out from the kitchen, balancing them on a thick board, too wide to fit through the doors without some gravity-defying upending of the whole cargo. The group were quite amused by his skill, but one of them stared with intensity overspent on this display of table service. The cat was released from the bag at once.
"Comariero,"
the staring man said. Comariero immediately started staring back. He hadn't told anyone his name yet. The traveller had clean-cut grey hair, a face of pale leather, and features reminiscent of a certain former fire tender.
"Impossible,"
Comariero muttered. The mud nuggets spilt from his board to great uproar. He vaulted the storm of huskies that was summoned by this tasty clamour, and lunged at the traveller.
"It is you. Sweet Retacot Sundown, it is you," the man said.
"Iroro, lost father," Comariero barely said. The rest of the travelling party seemed to realise what was happening, and suddenly burst into cheers and applause. From their shouts, all could gather that they had been seeking this reunion for a while. Iroro's crew had just completed their mission.
How did you get here?"
Comariero asked shakily. "Walked the roads," Iroro said.
"Easy until you get to here, but all the merchants on the last stretch were saying there's a Tranka village on the way around to Bystone, so I just had to look for you. It was empty, though, so I almost gave up hope. Then it all got green, as you know."
"You didn't have to do that."
I did. Since if I didn't do it this year, it might not happen at all. I'm sorry if this isn't what you wanted." I had not thought there was any cord to bind us, not in thought or hand. Right? That sounds not so bad as I feared. I will not return. No, I didn't mean to ask that at all. I just wanted to see you once as a man. I was so happy when I heard you survived all that. I thought to myself, now or never. And never is hard to think about. So, I'm sorry. I am also sorry that it was like this. But the plane was not my home, whatever you called it. I know. I and your mother, we understood. That is not possible, Zapper. Zapper? Ah, yes. Well, you've landed on your feet here, haven't you? We shall all die here. Aurora was taken back by this flatly delivered prophecy. Your father is a Zapper? Kerma asked during the silence. No answer was given. Hey, I know you're doing a thing here, but business, Holt said. Correct me if I'm wrong, but only people I ever heard saying sweet Redicott sundown are from the north. Aye, Tetius. Course, Tetius, I'm from Bystone, heard of it? By and by. Take that as a yes. Why are you here? Is it all trucked up beyond hope there? Seen any big finger things coming up from the ground and killing everything? During my journey, it began. The cities were fighting them, but they were these robotic soldiers. Death robots, Shah heckled from the corner. Yes, death was their business indeed. And, well, we did not participate. So the North is still okay? Holt pressed. It was okay when I left 2 seasons ago. That's all I can tell you, friend. Okay, thanks, that's all I need to know. And as for how you're his dad, guess that's out of my remit, so you folks can thrash that about if you want. It doesn't concern any but us, and perhaps not even both of us. Comariero, why don't we go talk about this in private? Hang on, Boy cut in. Are you all planning on staying here? Boy, Lady said. Boy looked at her for a moment, then let out his breath. Guess we aren't gonna throw you back overboard, are we? Die together, die faster. Staves nodded. We're moving up in the world, Tumas concluded. Iroro and Comariero wandered off, and the other Tets chatted with the crew over what remained of dinner. It was pleasant enough, almost enough to forget the end of the world going on just outside. Huntsman blasted in through the doors to ruin the mood.
Oi, we've got torches approaching. The fire kind, he said.
We can't take any more. We're out of spoons, Boy lamented. The Tet crew claimed that no one was expected. Iroro and Comariero were called back from their catch-up in the caves. You were followed, Comariero said of the news. Must be your old friends, Iroro said. And I have killed enough of them. I understand. I think we'd best take you up on your offer, Holt. I offered you something, Holt said, not looking up from his collection of the aforementioned potato-caked spoons. We should be away to Bystone. I'll bring no more trouble on my boy or his new family. Everyone up. With this, the Tet crew grabbed their packs and weapons and followed Iroro out the door with well-drilled speed. Sure you can outrun them, Bara? Tumas called after them. You can't make it across the mountains with the fog. It's too much, Shah insisted. Iroro and company ignored them both, quickly filing through the gateway and out of view. Shah turned to Comariero. Your old man's going off to kill himself. You're okay with this? That is his gift to me, Comariero said. A real family man you are, Shah snarked. If you knew the full story, you'd see that Comariero was not quite so callous as he seemed here. And we'll get to the full story eventually. For now, we must avoid flashbacks, as the sound of gunfire started up a minute later. Right, we're going after them. Get all the thunderbolts, Boy ordered. He led a party after the Tets, and sure enough there was trouble just beyond the outermost walls. It was hard to tell the extent of it, with it being nearly midnight and the sky trapped behind a green glaze, but there were bodies in the mud, wearing Tranka and Tet attire.
Looks like Chef Com got his way right out of the nut, Huntsman said. I'll finish off the tribals. You lot find Daddy Man and see what kind of vacuum he's playing with.
There were various shrieks in the darkness.
Then Huntsman returned to give the all clear. Kerma turned over some bodies and confirmed they were from her tribe.
They would all die tomorrow anyway. All people, she said. Even the fire tender would not dare make that prediction, given all we have been through,
an approaching Comariero said.
Should we stay here and breathe it in as deep as the rest of them? It isn't fair for just 2 of us to live.
Or any of us. Tonight we are not witnessing the dawn of the fair. But being us and being them, none is better, and both bring duties. In life we keep living, in death they make their own way. Boy appeared from behind some rocks, dragging Iroro. His body was limp and covered in hack marks. Sorry, Com, Boy said. Comariero was about to speak, but a breath escaped him involuntarily. He seemed unable to return to speech afterwards and preferred to hurry back inside on his own. Iroro was left with his comrades in the mud, for there was not enough good air to stay out and bury them. The crew took their weapons and luggage home and closed the doors of the fort once again. Lady went to find Comariero in his room. He was sitting on the marble floor beside the bed with his blowwork light off. The pillar of light from the opening door made him clench his face.
Comariero, are you okay?
Lady asked. I have great responsibility, he said. I am the last of all my lines. Even though it's the end of the world, I cannot face death like... At this he wished to say no more. Lady fetched staves and had him sing an old Tindran ballad. It echoed out down the hallway, and in the other bedrooms of the caves, everyone got an eerie feeling as Staves' smooth voice pierced the silence below the mountain.
He sang.
It was a tale of truth unspoken, some say. The matching dance was quite good, but Comariero didn't seem to enjoy it as much as Lady. The next couple of days were quiet. There was nothing to do but eat and feed the animals. So everyone was getting cabin fever in the tight confines of the cave and flat caves. The most notable drama was a rumour that Kerma was seen slipping into Holt's bedroom. What was that about? There's a whole lot going on behind the scenes here clearly, but our attention is drawn to something at the scene's front and centre. On the 6th day of summer, 1503, the clear blue sky decorated a lovely mountainside morning. "It's gone!" Staves shouted repeatedly, drawing everyone from bed. Indeed, the green fog was nowhere to be seen. By the bits. Did we... Hollows couldn't kill us, haha! Boy cheered as he dashed out into the soft soil of the nearest field. Oh, guess that mover thing gave up on us, huh? Holt said, directing the question at Shah.
Moves in mysterious ways. Does the IPA think we're all dead then?
She asked. No answer there just yet. All of a sudden there was a lot of work for everyone to do. The animals all needed a good walking and wrangling. The crops hadn't been weeded in far too long, and the grim duty of collecting days-old corpses from the mountainside loomed. It took a couple of days to get everything in order. The megasloth XIII was buried east of the fort where Staves had first met her, an endeavour that took rather a lot of digging to achieve, but Lady seemed eager to help Staves. Kerma was eager to do right by XIII, and Holt was eager to hang around the sharp young tranker. Quite the double date. The good news overall was that the roll-up appeared to have failed across the board. While a decent dose of death and destruction had been dealt, according to the reports from Satsuki, the towns of Tetius were intact. There was some news of looming food shortage owing to the various deathly schemes of the mover, but that was where the fertile fields of Three Up Fort could shine. The farming business was about to get extremely lucrative. The only thing holding them back was the difficulty of the hike to Bystone on the other side of the mountains, but Councillor Satsuki was starting to talk about using the might of the Tet Engineering Corps to direct their road network right up to the fort's gates. Yes, in that week after the poison gas disappeared, it was as if they made it into a new world, and they were about to become its cornerstone, patching over the damage of the old. The promise of a rich farm was enough to stop Boy fretting over his aimless crusade, enough to keep Lady focused on finally dragging herself as far from her miserable past as possible, and enough for Stave to stop worrying about those pesky human connections, as he would have all the animals he could ever want. A new chapter in the tale of the lost Tindrons, nay all of Retticott, was about to begin. There was just one minor, all-consuming problem. You see that whole barren earth and poison air thing? That wasn't the roll-up. This wouldn't be a roll-up chronicle if it was. The next chapter really begins in midsummer of that same year, when a shadow crept across all of Retticott. More accurately, it crept across its life-giving star. Then it stayed there. Want a way to cleanse a planet? Taking away their daylight hours is a pretty good way to do it, and the arriving gigafleets of the Great Inner Passage Administration knew it well. And so, as all on the surface stood aghast, the long night began.